Welcome to Breaking Wire. Please subscribe the channel and press the bell icon for more updates. For decades, the US dollar has been the backbone of global finance, powering trade, oil, and international debt. This dominance has let America borrow cheaply and wield outsized influence. But today, September 29, 2025, cracks are forming in this dollar-centric world. The question is no longer if the dollar will be challenged, but how soon and by whom. The world isn't staging a revolution but a slow evolution away from the dollar. A recent move by Australia, a close US ally, signals this shift. An Australian company accepted a massive loan from China, not in US dollars but in Chinese yuan. On the surface, it's just business. But in context, it's a tremor in global finance. Even traditional US partners are now exploring ways to bypass the American system. This isn't an isolated event. It's part of a global trend, de-dollarization, driven by rising BRICS influence and US protectionism. The Australian deal is a clear sign. Economic interests are starting to outweigh old allegiances. The push for a multipolar currency world is no longer just America's rivals, it's friends too, forcing us to rethink the future of global power. The deal-making headlines involves Fortescue, one of Australia's largest green energy companies. In August 2025, Fortescue secured a record 14.2 billion yuan loan, nearly $2 billion, from China's central bank. The entire transaction was conducted in yuan, bypassing the US dollar. The loan will fund Australia's clean energy transition, with Fortescue buying advanced green tech directly from Chinese manufacturers. This closed-loop yuan financing means both the loan and repayment stay in yuan, creating a self-contained financial ecosystem. For Australia, borrowing in yuan to buy Chinese goods locks in costs and streamlines the supply chain. It's a pragmatic move. Australia needs Chinese technology to process its resources for renewables. While Australia remains a US security ally, this financial pivot highlights the complex balancing act nations now face. The deal accelerates Australia's climate goals and deepens economic ties with China. This isn't a political statement against the US, it's a practical embrace of a changing global economy. Countries can maintain security ties with Washington while pursuing economic benefits with Beijing. The Australian loan fits perfectly with BRICS' strategy to reduce reliance on the US dollar. The expanded BRICS bloc, now including the UAE, Iran, and Egypt, seeks to avoid the dollar's vulnerabilities, like US sanctions. Rather than creating a new currency overnight, BRICS is promoting local currencies and trade. Members are settling transactions in yuan, rupees, and reais, sidestepping the dollar and SWIFT. The new development bank is issuing more loans in local currencies, keeping capital flows outside the dollar system. This shields borrowers from dollar exchange risks and boosts the profile of their own currencies. With major oil producers joining BRICS, accepting local currencies for energy could challenge the petrodollar system. The BRICS bloc is methodically building the plumbing for a new financial world. The global shift from the dollar isn't just BRICS ambition, it's also a reaction to US policy. America's aggressive tariffs in 2025, 10% on all imports with threats of more, have rattled the world economy. Instead of protecting US dominance, these moves make diversification away from the dollar seem necessary. Countries are seeking more stable partners and building regional trade blocs, like the ASEAN-China Free Trade Area. Traditional US allies now face tough choices, hedging between security ties with Washington and economic realities. The Fortescue loan is one example. Nations are insulating themselves from US policy swings. US protectionism is accelerating de-dollarization, pushing countries to explore yuan-based financing and alternative payment systems. The BRICS Emergency Summit in September 2025 shows this unity. Instead of compliance, US tariffs are driving countries to build a multipolar economic order. The US may soon find its influence harder to maintain. The quest for financial independence is moving digital. US control over SWIFT, the global payment network, has been a powerful tool, but nations are building alternatives. BRICS Bridge, a blockchain-based system, aims to let members pay each other directly, bypassing the US system. Projects like M-Bridge, involving China, the UAE, and others, enable instant, low-cost payments using central bank digital currencies. These platforms promise faster, cheaper, and more transparent transactions, cutting out US-based intermediaries. For Asia, the Middle East, and South America, this means more efficient trade and less vulnerability to US sanctions. Even the US is adapting, deregulating crypto and building a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Ironically, by embracing Bitcoin, the US may help create a world with more currency options, The race is on to build the next financial architecture, and for the first time in 80 years it's not just America's blueprint, the future of money is up for grabs. Despite the momentum behind de-dollarization, the dollar's demise is far from imminent. The greenback is still involved in nearly 88% of all foreign exchange transactions and remains the world's top reserve currency. America's financial markets are the largest and most liquid. When crisis hits, investors flock to U.S. Treasury bonds. No other currency, not the yuan or a future BRICS coin, can match this scale or trust, at least for now. The dollar is deeply embedded in global commerce, especially in commodities like oil and gas. Unwinding the petrodollar system would require massive, coordinated change. For global businesses, using the dollar is simply more efficient than juggling multiple currencies. The shift we're seeing is gradual, an erosion at the margins, not a collapse. The world is moving toward a multipolar currency system, but the dollar will likely remain the anchor for years to come. Its incumbency is a formidable defense. The challenge is real, but the dollar's grip won't be broken easily. The future is multipolar, but the dollar's story is far from over. Australia's Yuan loan, BRICS' ambitions, US protectionism, and digital currencies all point to a new era. We're moving from a unipolar world to a multipolar financial system. The dollar will remain a key player, but it's no longer the only game in town. The yuan, euro, and others will carve out their own spheres, making the global economy more balanced and more complex. For US allies like Australia, pragmatism rules, security with Washington, prosperity with Beijing. The US will face higher borrowing costs and less power to use sanctions as alternatives grow. America's own policies are speeding this transition. The rise of a multipolar currency world mirrors the broader shift in global power. The Australian yuan loan isn't the end of the dollar's reign, but it's a clear sign the world is preparing for what comes next.